you're streaming.
All right, everybody's here, so we don't have to worry about announcing. People are visiting. And the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. And is there anything we want to add? You did email out that one item.
Yes, sir.
enclosed.
Could we add closed item, advice from officials, sections 17 and 24?
When did you send that out?
Oh, this morning? Yesterday
Sunday morning, I
Yeah,
sent
Sunday
it to
morning.
His Worship and Shannon.
Oh.
We
oh.
didn't all get it.
Oh,
Okay.
then that's, I didn't look to see who got it. Okay. So can somebody move the agenda as amended? James? Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And next on the agenda is the accounts payable for information.
I'll move for information.
Nothing? Any questions or concerns about any of the payables? Chris?
Not that it matters any at all, just curious why Trucker's Restaurant was paid in such a lump sum, many months. Why not? Just pay
That
them
would
every
be
month?
how we got the bill from them.
Oh, that's how they billed us? Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's not normal for them to bill us like that, is it?
No.
Okay.
Okay, Larry?
There was a tips, and it was a $4,000 rebate. I can't find it right here, right now. It was for,
Tax payments?
tax payment.
Yeah, tax
Tip.
installment payment plan is
Yeah.
what TIPS stands for.
Yeah, Tri-Can Well Services,
Yeah.
so that's EFT 004753.
So they paid too much and they got a refund.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions about any of the accounts payable? Seeing none, all in favor of information? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to delegations. We have Jane Finnimore for the trap, neuter, and release.
Unfortunately, we're the only two that showed up, and so, I guess I can just go if you want.
Do you want to come to the mic,
Sure.
please and thank you?
Okay, I can just go with the agenda that I submitted. I did a fair amount of research. I'm not a doctor. Okay. And so I did a lot of research, and it's been, I was gonna say it's been a year, but I can't stand here and read it all. But basically, we're looking to do a trap, neuter, and release program in Redcliff. There are so many stray cats, and if we don't get a hold of the problem, we're gonna have a lot more of a problem. Cats multiply and divide. They know their arithmetic really well. And like I know Taylor's Used Tires across the street, they're housing, you know, and feeding up to 12 pets from that area, and that's not all of the ones in that area. Plus, we have several in the town of Redcliff, and Robbie over here is the one that does the community TNR program, and he's got a scanner, so if there's any cat that shows up, he can scan it to see if there's an owner. And we did have the task force come in, and they neutered some of the animals and vetted them, you know, made sure they had their vaccinations, and then brought them back to their colony. And all of the cats that have been taken in by the task force have a little nick in their ear, so that people know that they are from a colony and that they shouldn't be taking them in thinking they're a lost animal. And did you want to speak, Robbie? Okay. Okay, so anyway, and the animal justice, I'm part of the animal justice committee, and I get regular material from them on the kind of situations they're dealing with as far as animals. I have also been trying to get a animal police force down here. Edmonton has one, and it would be nice to have one down here because there's a lot of dog fighting rings in the area. And of course, that also affects, you know, the safety in and around our towns. So I am just, I think it's a vital need to have a trap, neuter, and release program for the cats, and to try and seek foster homes for the babies that are born that, you know, are not feral and can still be, you know, trained to be with people. So there are a lot of things in the work, but we really need you guys' help to get this thing going, because we don't, you know, we can't do it without you. And so I hope that you had a chance to observe or read what I submitted. And I've taken it from cities and towns all over across Canada. The information has come. And like I said, I'm part of the Animal Justice Committee, and then I've been dealing with Robbie, who does the spay, neuter, and return program on the community site. And I have gone out with Barry. Unfortunately, he's not here tonight. And tried to catch a few cats that we thought were pets, but you know, it didn't work out. But anyway, it was an experience. Yes.
Do you mind if I come up and say something?
No, not at all.
I'm sorry. So we did have a person, a veterinarian who was gonna come in and to address and provide a little presentation. I'm not sure what happened to her today, so I do apologize for that. Jane here was saying that I do TNR. Now, I've been working with an organization, Persian Dreams, which we're familiar with, in Medicine Hat, and they've financially helped me trap, neuter, and release. They paid for the vetting costs, the checking of microchips, and neutering, spay, and then I return them to the community. They've expressed an interest in trap, neutering, releasing, and getting into a program with that in conjunction with the town of Redcliff. I am not affiliated with them in any way. Their concern is, what if they come across kittens, and what do they do with the kittens? So one of the questions, they're hoping to get another organization involved. Potentially, we're talking with Medicine Hat SPCA in providing kennel. So that conversation's been opened. There's nothing conclusive there at all, but we are talking about that. I think the town of Redcliff, the town council, and the people of Redcliff as well should, you know, it's in, when you go on Facebook and you see when there's a missing cat, how everyone's interested in it. There's a lot of interest in it. And there's two sides of the story, whether these cats are nuisance cats, and dealing with the population of cats will also reduce the nuisance of these cats as well. So if the cats are allowed to prosper and grow in population, then the nuisance part is there as well. So it's a double-edged sword. It's compassion for the cats, and it's compassion for the community as well, to so we don't have to come up with this issue and deal with it in the future as the cat population grows. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess I'm done. Thank you.
Did anybody have any questions?
So what are you looking for from us? I see in here you're looking for us to shift some bylaws. Dollars and cents is the big question.
Well, one, we would like a shift in the bylaw so that we can set up foster homes in Redcliff, like the
To allow
kittens
more
that-
than 2 animals, I see.
Yeah, and I mean, there's lots of animals out there that need to be fostered. So it would be great if we could get that switched so that we could have more than the 2 animals.
I think the bylaw also, it's time for a rethinking and updating of the bylaw, consistent with other towns out there and cities out there who have put more expansive bylaws on there.
And the Animal Justice Committee has also set an outline, a guideline for bylaws in small towns. And so we're hoping that that's gonna influence the way you're thinking. It's probably not something you deal with on an everyday, but we're all people that we care for our animals. They're part of our society, and we have to be their caretakers, and we're just trying to do the best that we know how to do, and we're asking for your help. And we're also looking at hopefully finding some financial help so that Persian Dreams
and K-9 teams is,
it's such a tricky,
it is.
but that, you know, we can, you know, cover a little bit of their cost for what they're doing.
They've spent much of their donated funds on the cats of Redcliff. Originally, it can be a higher cost to get the population under control, but once you've maintained that population, it's actually quite a reasonable cost. I haven't run the numbers. I was hoping to sit down with Persian Dreams and collaborate with Medicine Hat SPCA as well to get some dollars and cents on that, because we're hoping to, with kittens, you know, we can't release kittens back into young kittens, so we need a shelter, some sort of involvement with the shelter, and so we're trying to work with other organizations. We don't know which ones we can at this moment who have a shelter. There's only two, right?
Just a
Yeah.
quick question, with the TNR, did I hear right that they go up to Calgary to do the procedure and then bring them back?
The Canadian Animal Task Force came down for Cypress
Oh,
County,
okay, yes.
and they collected, they were funded partially by Cypress County, much through donations, and they captured 430 some cats in 2 visits.
Here.
No, not
Oh.
here, Cypress County.
Okay.
Mostly
Okay.
half in Suffield, Dunmore. They reached out to some residents here in the town of Redcliff to help out. And they collected cats at 2 sites, and 2 other people had cats that they needed affordable spay and neuter services. They take them up to Calgary because there was no services. Usually they try to set up in a town hall and set their vet, all their vets and that into a local, but there was nothing here, so they took them back to Calgary at that
Okay,
time.
that was gonna be my next question, as to why couldn't you utilize something local, so.
With Persian Dreams, they don't have a shelter,
Yeah.
so I and some other volunteers, what we did is we captured the cats, they went to the vet, and then we watched them for males just for 1 night and females for 4 nights minimum to ensure their health, and then return them. In total, cats done in, going off the top of my head on this, there's probably been 50 to 60 cats in Redcliff who've been TNR'd in the last 2 years that I've been involved in most of that.
And that doesn't include the north side of town.
That doesn't include, no, that doesn't include on the other side of
Okay,
Trans
the
Canada.
other side of that one.
What do you estimate how many need to be done?
Pardon me?
What's your estimate on how many need to be done here?
I don't have an estimate. I do know on the north side of the tracks, Taylor Tires, and over in that area, I would estimate there's probably 25 cats minimum that could be helped. In the north of Broadway, between the Trans-Canada, so the northeast and the northwest there, that's where the majority of the cats, 47 cats, have been trapped neutered. And I already had a lady come to me who saw 2 cats in heat, one actually pregnant probably, and one in heat. So we had 2 females that I specifically know of. And if I know of 2, that means there's probably 10 or 12. And each kitten, each cat will have 4 to 6 survivable kittens. And that's in the northeast, just on this side of Trans-Canada, between Broadway and Trans-Canada, 27 cats, 30 cats done. And in the last 2 years, and we still have litters being born and the population growing.
So, you say our bylaws need to be reworked. Are Medicine Hat bylaws adequate, or they need reworking too?
They
Like-
need reworking as well,
Okay,
because they
so
do not.
who has good bylaws? If we were going to look at a bylaw to see what you consider to be a good bylaw, who has one? So we don't have to invent a wheel.
That's a good question. And the Canadian Animal Task Force has worked with many towns before. They are a very good resource to work with. I don't have that at my fingertips. But I do know some towns in southern Alberta have worked with them, rewritten their bylaws. They've come in, trap neuter, and they've done a large program, and they do charge for that. And, but I think at this point in Redcliff, we're actually at the point where we don't need a mass catching of cats. I think it can be done in groups of smaller cats. But the bylaw needs to look at number of cats in the household, foster cats, and allowing for trap neuter release as a legal alternative, and for rescues and charities to work with that. Our bylaw is very vague at that point, so, and I can get you those bylaws.
Mm-hmm.
and forward.
Or at least get us who has them, and then
Who
we
has
can
them,
get.
yes, very good.
They should be some of it should be included in the information that I submitted, because I went all across Canada.
Well, there's some, well, I didn't see any true hard bylaws, there was lots of suggestions, but, I mean, I look at, like, one of your suggestions is, right now we say 2, and you're saying, well, if you're going to be a caretaker or you're rescuing, then you should be allowed more. The only problem is then, truly, there will be people that have, there's no way to police that after that, because you can have 7 to 12 and they're rescuing, but how do we do that? Do we check you every day to see if eventually you're letting them go or whatever, or all of a sudden everybody has a whole bunch? And on most cats, as soon as they're let out of the house, then the neighbors know about them too, right? And, yeah.
The thing is, we would have to set a limit.
Right.
But 2 is too small a limit.
Medicine Hat, I believe, is
4.
4, with the addition if you're fostering cats.
Okay. Okay. Like I say, just,
So if we increase the cat limit to 4, and then we can do the dog limit as well, and the horse limit, and
Well-
pig limit, and everything else.
well, it's just, we've gotta work with something, but, yeah.
I understand what you're saying. Most people, 2 cats, it's probably the lowest limit there is that I've ever heard of. It would be the lowest limit.
Okay.
And most of the cats in foster care are not outdoor cats. They're trained to be indoor cats.
Foster cats actually, the organizations, if you foster through a rescue, they're not allowed to be outdoor cats. They are indoor cats.
So you wouldn't see more cats over on.
Okay. Alright. Does anybody else have any other questions they would like to ask while they're here? Seeing none, would somebody like to move?
I'll make a motion that we accept the presentation for information. I would also ask that we request that some financial aid be put to for discussion in the budget sessions when they come up, and ask that administration research updating the animal bylaw. The animal bylaw, I don't know what the exact title is, if it's an animal bylaw or pet bylaw.
There's a cat bylaw and a dog bylaw.
That should be combined into a single bylaw. Speaking as a former bylaw officer.
So you're gonna put all that into one motion?
It's a big motion. No,
Is there
just
anything you
we
missed, Kathy?
accept it for information, request that, if any possible funding be put to budget sessions, and that administration look at updating the bylaw in regards to pets. Is that a little shorter?
No, that's still all three in one motion. That's what I already had written. Well,
Okay.
That's fine. If,
I'm good
we
with
we
that.
can go with that. Okay.
I'm good with that.
All right. So, any discussion or comments on that motion? You guys don't have to keep standing anymore if you don't want.
I think it sounds like it's gonna come back to talk about in the future, so we can talk about it then.
Okay, seeing nothing, all in favor? Opposed? Where was your hand?
It was up.
Oh. Wow. I didn't, I
Gotta
need-
start doing
I
it.
voted in
We need a
favor,
Canadian
Dwight.
flag for James so he can wave it in the air.
I don't wanna be
It's carried.
associated with those people. A Redcliff flag now.
Okay, a Redcliff flag, yeah.
I'll bring that flag. No.
That's this week.
There you go.
All right,
I like the way you think, Jim.
we will now
I'm rubbing that
call
for
a
you.
public hearing to order, and that is for bylaw number 1942/2022, being the Eastside Area Structure Plan bylaw, public hearing. And she's already there.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, hello, good evening. Mayor Kilpatrick, councilors, staff, and those attending tonight's council meeting. I'm Brittany Shewchuk. I'm a planner from WSP. I was part of the consulting team who put the Eastside Area Structure Plan together. On the municipal side, we have Elise and Tony here, who is the project manager for this initiative. Today, I will be reviewing the process and the summary of the Eastside ASP update, and you'll have the opportunity to ask questions following the presentation. Go.
They did this just before and it worked.
And it worked?
It did.
You
Yeah.
broke it, Chris.
You should never do something and then try to repeat it. Better off doing it once the first time.
Not sure that theory applies.
Well,
Depends on-
I saw a movie once. that
Oh,
proved it
no,
correct.
all right then, forget it, I stand correct.
It only must be real if it wasn't in the.
Okay,
It was actually a bad joke, but
so next slide, please.
Excuse me.
Excuse.
Okay, so here's the agenda. So as said, I will be running through the overall ASP update, which includes purpose and background, touching on the planning framework, policy highlights, current zoning, land ownership constraints, and then getting into kind of the meat of the presentation, vision and principles of the ASP update, development concept review, public open space review, transportation review, servicing review, development phasing, and then we'll touch on the comments that we received from the circulation of the ASP fairly recently. Next slide. Okay, so for the purpose and background of the project, many of you probably know this already, but I will review it. It was to update the existing ASP, which was adopted as a bylaw in 2017. There were a number of reasons that drove this update, which were to create consistency with the policies outlined in the town's municipal development plan, which was updated and adopted in 2019, to add additional adjacent lands into the ASP area, to officially accommodate new site constraints, and to consider the adjacent City of Medicine Hat Burnside ASP, as it was not considered in this original plan. Next slide. Oh, it's working. Thank you. Okay, so the initial plan, so if you, the map on the left of the screen is the initial plan area, and this was about 216 acres of land. The new ASP update is on the right of the screen, and this includes 234 hectares of land. Hectares, if I said acres, I apologize. The additional lands, as you can see, are kind of highlighted in the red circle there, and they include the existing Upper Bank area and the land near the Riverview Golf Club. Okay, I'll touch quickly on the planning framework. So this slide provides an indication of where the ASP falls within the province's planning hierarchy, and specifically where this ASP falls within Redcliff's planning policy. So since the last iteration of the ASP, the South Saskatchewan regional plan was amended in 2017. The tri-area MDP was completed, was adopted in 2019. In 2020, and the MDP was adopted in 2019. So therefore, a review of these policy documents were completed in order to ensure that this new ASP update was compatible with kind of their informing policy documents. Policy highlights, lots of text on this slide. I'm not going to read it all, but we've included some relevant policy highlights that were pulled from the town's MDP, which were referenced continually during the development of this ASP update. One of the major policies that drove the Eastside update was the need to incorporate the notion of a small town feel, and that came from the MDP. I'll speak to this more when we review the development concept, but this was done by incorporating more of a grid type development pattern with a revised road design concept. The addition of more lanes, including a significant number of multi-use pathways, sidewalks, and pedestrian and active transportation connections, making sure connectivity was incorporated throughout the plan area, and particularly between the residential areas, the open space areas, as well as connecting the commercial areas to residential as well. Other policies and themes that were mentioned in the MDP that were considered in the drafting of the ASP was to include a variety of housing types and densities, to ensure that the land use pattern, again, like I think I already mentioned this, but to incorporate a street grid and street-oriented development, to ensure that there was natural environment and open space distributed throughout the area, and that there were many connections to these natural areas and open space areas, to ensure that stormwater ponds were designed to be naturalized so they could be used as wetlands and for public space, to ensure that commercial development on Samus Drive fostered additional commercial growth while servicing the neighborhood as well, and to minimize the cost of servicing. Just a note from kind of the land use bylaw side of things, proposed land uses within the ASP concept plan indicate intent only, and formal land use amendments or rezonings to the land use bylaw will be required prior to each phase of development. Okay, so for current zoning, so this slide provides a map of what the area is currently zoned. So primarily the site is zoned urban reserve, which is in blue. And this is a land use zone to hold the area for future development. Other existing land use zones within the plan area include public service, which is in purple along the west side of the plan area, and there's also C3 general commercial in red. And then the yellow and orange tones include single family residential, low density residential, and medium density residential. The significant adjacencies to the plan area include the Riverview Golf Club and the CPR line on the northeast side of the site. Okay, land ownership. So this slide indicates the number of different landowners in the area. The town is the largest landowner, owning approximately 228 hectares, 93% of the plan area. 16 hectares is owned by private landowners, which is about 6.5%, and the city of Medicine Hat owns half a hectare. Okay, so for site constraints, so as I had previously mentioned, one of the reasons for the ASP update was to consider additional site constraints to better understand how these constraints impact the planned area to ultimately develop a more informed and functional design concept. So some of these constraints included servicing constraints that the town wanted addressed, such as the existing utility right-of-ways, particularly the utility right-of-way that runs north-south through the plan area. A historical and archaeological review was completed, and additional constraints found through that were the discovery of habitat evidence and sensitive species, which led to the requirement of a 200-meter snake hibernacula setback and additional environmental reserve buffers. And there were also the discovery of archaeological features along the southern boundary of the site. There's little X's along the southern boundary, and those are those archaeological features found. So these will also be protected from development through the environmental reserve designation, which is part of the land use concept, and which will be in the next couple of slides. The updated plan was also drafted to consider the City of Medicine Hat's Burnside ASP, which was not considered in the initial iteration, as I had mentioned before. So even though the City of Med Hat noted that this plan was old and it is their intent to update it, we didn't want to prohibit any sort of development that occurs in that area as per that plan. So we ensured that things were compatible on the southeast side of our plan area there. Additional site constraints include the coulee. Development should not occur within 100 meters of the South Saskatchewan River. Well sites, there's 5 active, 3 abandoned oil and gas wells on site. The development concept assumes that all active well setback will obtain setback relaxations, so development cannot occur within 50 meters of these sites. There's an active quarry sites. Setbacks were recommended for the Premier Quarry and the Old Quarry. There's an existing storm pond, kind of in the center of the site, and there's a former lagoon, also kind of in the south center of the site. Phase 2 ESA is recommended to be completed prior to subdivision. I'll just wait a sec.
So on that lagoon, that just requires further testing, right?
Mhm.
Because it's been, what, 75 is when, 75 or 77, is that when they got shut down?
I'm not sure.
75-ish, isn't that when we went to the city? I wasn't here then, so.
All those pipes were
Almost.
installed in 74, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So by now it's dried up.
Okay, and prior to subdivision, that's when the environmental study will be required, which is typical
Mhm.
protocol. Moving on to vision and principles. So the principles that were identified to kind of inform this plan include strong community identity, which of course includes small town feel. Again, the IXL brick plant is meant to be a focal point of the community, and as it builds out further, this is an area that will be connected to all of the area's open space network throughout the plan. Connectivity is a principle. This is a community that promotes walking, cycling, and convenient vehicle access throughout. Housing diversity to accommodate a variety of different types and tenures of homes for people with different incomes and lifestyles. Commercial vitality, large-scale commercial and neighborhood commercial are included in the plan area, and there's connections throughout to those commercial facilities, commercial areas. And efficient use of land was another principle to ensure that the area was designed in a way to provide efficient servicing networks and reducing capital and operating costs. Okay, so for the development concept. So once we defined and located the site's constraints, utility right-of-ways, topography, the first step was identifying where the stormwater ponds could be located. From the initial iteration of the plan, stormwater ponds were shifted to make them more beneficial and useful for the area, but again, of course, somewhat based on site topography as well. We then looked at shifting the school site. In the initial plan, the school site was more towards the center of the area, and it was shifted southwest, and this was a development priority for the town. So shifting it closer to the plan's west side would allow it to be developed earlier from a timing and servicing perspective. The intent of the large open space on the west side of the plan area is to eventually become a recreational facility, so somewhat a campus for the entire community. However, a master plan will be required to define the details of this future rec area. As you can see, the development concept includes commercial along Samos Drive. This is in red. Again, this was located due to the location of existing commercial development and its access and visibility from the highway. public service, which is located in kind of light blue and a medium blue along the upper west side of the plan boundary, includes, public service, RCMP station, fire hall, and future public service district development intent is to provide for buildings for social, education, or government or other public service. Residential development obviously makes up most of the plan area. The higher density residential development is located in areas that are dark brown and a medium brown color. The dark brown is higher density residential development, medium brown is medium density. Street oriented townhomes are located in orange. And all of these high density residential developments are located along the main collector roads through the plan area and mostly located in areas with connections to open space or commercial, which we'll see in a second. There we go. Okay. So the area in light yellow is the plan area's low-density residential development, and of course, as you can see, distributed mostly through the center area of the plan. The hometown feel that is to be echoed throughout the design of the plan area is enhanced through the grid-type street development pattern, lanes, and then the significant amount of connectivity to the different land use types throughout the area. High-density residential development, for clarification, will be 3 stories, and some will be classified as seniors apartments. Medium density will generally include 4plexes and townhomes. Okay, so public open space. So this map illustrates the open space areas, environmental reserve along the coulee, park sites, school site, and the location of stormwater ponds. The red stars denote planned destinations, which include schools, parks, and potential playgrounds. Multi-use pathways are in orange and located throughout the plan area to and ensure that all open spaces are well connected. Again, high priority for the town. Purple circles are priority pedestrian crossings. And we have also noted the potential trail connection at the bottom to the Burnside Heights area. There's just a blue circle along that kind of southeastern border. And then we've also located on the plan area existing bike paths, which are located through that environmental reserve area and then in the coulee area. So there's kind of connections with those as well. Some of the open space areas were specifically located where development is not likely to occur due to physical constraints or previous land use activities, such as the coulee and the location of the historical and biophysical constraints. And then the open space areas along the west side of the plan are the location of the former quarries. Transportation concept. So the undivided major road, which is red, that runs north to south, connects to the future Burnside area from an existing connection along the highway. The blue streets are considered residential collector roads, which are 2 lanes, and the purple is industrial commercial collectors. So note that traffic calming measures are to be considered throughout the plan area to discourage short gutting and mitigate potential noise. Sidewalks will be constructed on all roads where multi-use pathways do not exist. And the realignment of Broadway and Samus Drive has been identified as a future requirement to address technical roadway standards. This proposed alignment was reviewed at a conceptual level to ensure adequate intersection spacing with respect to existing railway and Trans-Canada Highway. Water servicing plan. So development will be serviced by municipal water, sanitary, and stormwater. Various sized water mains are proposed throughout the area, which is based on development densities. The water system concept was designed to minimize impacts on natural features and service the full build out of the area. Sanitary concept plan. So the solid red lines, kind of hard to see on the screen, but they illustrate the existing sanitary lines in and adjacent to the plan area. Various sizes of proposed sanitary lines run through the plan area to service the proposed development densities. stormwater. So this plan has been divided into 4 catchment areas for stormwater. The location of ponds, again, based on site constraints, as I had spoken about earlier. But we wanted to make sure too that the location of the stormwater ponds would also be a benefit to the community to complement the open space concept of the plan. Treated stormwater will release at pre-development rates into the South Saskatchewan River, and the system will generally operate on a gravity basis. Shallow utilities. The shallow utilities in the area will include gas, power provided by the City of Medicine Hat, cable Shaw, telephone will be TELUS. Primary power for the town will come from the Redcliff feeder located along Samus Drive. And there is an existing gas feeder that will service the initial phases of development, but ultimately a new feeder will be required along Mitchell Street to service the entire area. So in regards to development phasing, so phases, there's 6 phases for the plan area. And note that phase 1, which is in green, includes the area with the proposed school site, again, a priority for the town. Development phases are based on existing servicing as well as priority. However, note that alternative sequencing of development may occur based on market conditions and servicing infrastructure. Developers shall be responsible for all costs of the provision of municipal infrastructure within the area being developed, and the town and developer shall negotiate responsibility for the cost to supply infrastructure improvements outside the area being developed, which will be based on your offsite levy bylaw. Okay, so in terms of ASP circulation, so as required, the ASP update was circulated to internal and external referral departments to obtain comments following the bylaws first reading, which was on May 9th. Referral agencies are provided 30 days to provide comments and feedback regarding the plan. So we received a number of comments through this circulation process, and I included kind of the most notable or material comments on this slide. So many of these comments that will require potential change, we haven't done that to the document yet, but we will require direction from council or administration on how these comments should be incorporated or whether or not they should be. So I'll just go through these comments quickly. So the first was to include and I think what I'll do is I'll go through these comments, and then in the question period, perhaps we can have a discussion about them if that's kind of the direction we want to go. So the first comment was to include a multi-use trail along Mitchell Street. Currently Mitchell, I'm just gonna flip back to the land use concept, does not have a trail along it. However, there are trails that run through the open space area where the quarries are and along Disson's Drive southeast. The next comment was, it was suggested that the land use concept should be adjusted to include high-end condos on the south side of existing phase 1. I think this commenter meant more on phase 3, which is kind of the land use, the residential land use area that are just north of the coulee at the very south side of the site. As you can see there, we have all single-family housing designations, so the consideration of potentially a higher density residential land use was mentioned. It also, we also received a comment about a community kitchen and a shelter could be incorporated into the IXL park area. Again, this is something that doesn't necessarily need to be addressed in the ASP document. A policy isn't really required. This can be something done that the town chooses to do as that area builds out. But again, if it's desired to include a sentence regarding this in the plan, we can do that. Commercial lots should maintain rear alley access for delivery and garbage collection. We actually made a change to the land use map to ensure that. We had a multi-use pathway running through a lane at the bottom of the open space area near the school, and we just shifted that upward. So that was an oversight on our map design part. And another comment was regarding reduced right-of-ways. So the document notes that reduced right-of-ways are encouraged to maximize developable land, so reducing the width of the street. Now, this was a policy that was informed by both the MDP and the Tri-Area MDP. Those documents kind of recommend that to be included in kind of lower-level policy documents. There isn't a specific policy within the ASP regarding reduced right-of-ways. This comment said that there shouldn't be reduced right-of-ways because people in Redcliff have larger vehicles parking on, or multiple vehicles parking on both sides of the street. So maybe a wider roadway would be beneficial. So that's something I want to discuss with council after my presentation. And then the last kind of material comment was that the land use concept should be adjusted to change the land use located south of Broadway from mixed use to commercial. So there's a little purple strip right on the north side of the plan. Again, that's currently mixed use, which means residential and commercial mix, but we could just change that to straight commercial if that's desired. I think the landowner provided that comment, is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. So those are the comments. Next steps, following the public hearing, we'll get direction on those comments. Town of Redcliff will schedule the second and third reading. Second, I believe, is tonight, so that's
Yep.
a mistake on my slide. And then once the ASP is approved and the bylaw is adopted, doesn't mean construction will happen right away. So again, it depends on budgets, timing, forecasts, development priorities, et cetera. And that's it. Any questions, comments? Should I go back to these comments?
I have a
James.
question here. Just to ensure that I'm understanding this correctly. So with this proposed ASP, Samus Drive is getting relocated to make room for those two commercial business lots by the railway tracks?
I believe so. Is that correct, Louise? Yeah.
Mm. What it is, James, is the, right now Broadway existing as it turns to cross the tracks is not, I guess, a legal intersection per se. The distances just aren't there. So that realignment of Samus Drive
Gives us that
pulls
space.
the crossing of the track and the Trans-Canada Highway to more approach length. Like right now, you're stopping on Samus Drive because there is no
There's nowhere to-
place
yes.
to turn on the crossing. So that's what that is.
Okay.
And that, I believe, was even in the old drawing, and if you look, you see the sewer goes way out there through the field, along with the power line, where the town mows from time to time. You can see that trail is out there. So that has been in the plan for a long time. I don't know if this is moved, I'm hoping not, because the sewer is there, but,
I don't think it was moved, no.
right.
They were out mowing it today.
Hmm?
They were out mowing it today.
Oh, there you go.
So does that affect that, little historic sign or whatever that's set up there, that little turnout that's on Samus Drive right now then?
Nope, not
That's
really.
just past that.
It's up there.
The little avenue of trees? No,
Yes.
it shouldn't, no,
Okay.
it should still be there. Remember when we were talking moving the video screen somewhere out there? That was still
That was,
there too.
that was pre-me.
No, it wasn't, but that's okay. It's all right. Anyway, okay, that was a good question. Carry on, sorry. And I think we'll be talking about that in closed a little bit too.
Well, that
Just-
might have been a reason I brought it up now.
Well,
Mhm.
no, it wasn't, because you don't know it yet.
I think you, well, you definitely touched base on it, the small town feel,
Mhm.
and what you were going to do to create that small town feel, the
Right.
graded roads and whatnot, et cetera.
Yeah.
What other things are you doing to maintain that small town feel?
Well, we focused on back incorporating lanes into the design, so that was a major one, as well as just neighborhood connectivity through the multi-use pathways, ensuring that there's a lot of open space distributed throughout the area. And that-
Encouraging biking and walking.
Exactly, and
Yep.
that school is really connected kind of to the whole area, so kids will be able to kind of get there maybe on foot or on bike rather than getting driven, so. That would be the primary things, I guess. Again, commercial was focused on, there are little pockets of commercial kind of near where the golf course is. And we're hoping, we did include some policies that the commercial area could be designed to, or have a kind of higher level design quality, not just kind of big box stores, with parking lots, to be a little bit more pedestrian friendly as well.
So in your, along that roadway there, you have your yellow medium density, I believe, that's what that's supposed to be?
Townhomes are that
So those are all
orange?
townhomes?
Yeah, orange.
So, would it also be possible somewhere there to have almost like what we have on Third Street, only refreshed, and that's commercial on ground floor and living quarters above?
I mean, I think it could be
Is,
possible.
because of that, even that commercial, like in well, in the old phase one,
Yeah.
I mean, that's still sitting there vacant, so
I don't know, is that
I guess
something?
we've become more mobile and we don't need convenience stores.
Where is the commercial one?
Right here, the little pink
The pink
piece.
part?
Yeah, that was always zoned commercial, and
Was that
it's-
discussed?
I don't think anybody's even bid it, so.
I mean, and maybe that's the reason why we just included townhomes. Again, I wasn't part of all of the discussions when the, development concept was being developed, but I think if that commercial area is still vacant, maybe adding more kind of street-oriented convenience commercial might be.
Or
Yeah.
take it down to residential or medium because it hasn't sold, and I guess nowadays, I guess we're just more mobile. With all the proposed commercial along Samus Drive, you're really not going to be far
Yeah,
from anywhere
Yeah.
here to get there.
Yeah.
Certainly walkable.
You know, so I just think that one old one, and I guess you have it shown there, but it really, that's an old problem, not a today problem.
right. I mean, I guess it could be, that land could be rezoned, but it's currently zoned
Right,
commercial.
it already
Yeah.
is zoned that way,
Yeah.
so that's got nothing to do with the ASP.
Yeah.
The suggestion from the MPC for the higher end housing,
Mhm.
or the higher end condos and
Condos,
whatnot.
yeah.
I forget, it was Bill Duncan's suggestion, it was either where that circle goes through, that water feature on the right-hand side of that circle, that little yellow portion that touches it,
The existing storm pond,
yeah.
that is the existing one. It's dry, but it is a storm pond.
But it was
That's
either
fair.
there, or I forget if you wanted it on the storm pond to the right, across the street from it, the yellow townhouse structure there.
Okay.
That's where he was suggesting it. I
Okay.
forget.
This is what he was talking about, this dark green area.
Was it down there?
But that's where all those little X's are.
I know,
So
I know.
unless somebody goes and kicks all
Maybe
the
I'm wrong.
arrowheads over the edge, we're goofed.
Yeah.
Was it not overlooking one of the
No,
storm
no,
ponds?
That's where he was on,
I
because.
think
Oh,
kind
okay.
of overlooking the Cooley Mall.
Okay, well then
That
I'm
was-
incorrect then.
But, yeah.
How many people are watching, Chris?
You just lost a few more votes in the next election
I
now.
don't care.
Chris Howells is watching.
Well, and if a landslide took out the rattlesnake den, there would be a lot of good land down there for housing.
Well, I don't know if snakes just go back to where they were, I don't know.
Not if there's no hole to go back to.
I'm not a, I don't know, I'm not a snake expert.
Anyway,
You're making her uncomfortable.
well,
Where's their den down there?
well,
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
saying, somebody's saying there is, but
There's a
you
huge
didn't hear
snake
it
den
from
down
me.
there. So you made comment about the roadways, and, reduced right-of-ways.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
So what I kind of interpret from that is narrowing up the roads so there's more space, but then you have limited traffic flow and,
right, and probably limited on-street parking, maybe
Mhm.
just on one side of the road rather than both.
so I,
Certainly do like our trucks here.
well, I guess my comment on that is, I live on Fifth Street and there's on-street parking on both sides. And when you're driving past another vehicle, it's a little tight if you have two trucks side by side.
Yeah,
And Chris is right, we do like our trucks in Redcliff. So I'm not so sure that, I understand the value in reducing right-of-ways for more usable land, but does that maybe give it more of a city feel than a small town feel? Because when you drive around at like a high-dense residential area in the city, you've got really narrow roads with low speed limits and no on-street parking, and
And it gives it a cheaper feel too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like old town feel, where this is a really cool new
Right,
design.
right. The only thing that we need to consider in that, perhaps we can recommend areas where a reduced right-of-way could occur and limit them, because that is a recommendation that is in the municipal development plan, so we have to kind of consider those policies in some way in this ASP document, so we can try to massage that a bit, and I'll work with Elise. But I understand, and the other comment regarding the reduced right-of-ways was because people might have more than 2 vehicles per household here, if you have kids, or you just have rec vehicles or whatever, so I understand that. That it's important to incorporate that. So, we'll figure that out, I guess, yeah, okay.
Again, that's just my opinion, I don't.
Yeah, no, and I,
There also doesn't seem to be any front drive garages or driveways on a lot of them,
yeah,
so there'd be, unless you're on those electric skateboards and stuff like that, it could be pretty tough. Like vehicles aren't, it's not vehicle friendly, is it?
this area?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of trying to hit the balance between vehicles and then also encouraging pedestrian and modes of active transportation. And safety for those people, and I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's, you can finish.
Yeah, no, and I think that's also primarily why lanes were considered to encourage that small town feel, but also to probably enhance a bit of safety in the neighborhoods as well, because then the front streets aren't so busy with traffic necessarily, and it's safer for people to walk and kids to play when back lanes are used for parking. But again, the plan needs to fit the needs of the community as well, so there's a balance.
And I also think that when the MDP was done, Jordan pulled a lot of stuff from Okotoks and places like that that used their street as their appeal. And actually, because we still have laneways everywhere, she was thinking that garages could be built on the back of the house and accessible from the laneway. So you could still have attached garages, but you'd literally be moving your house closer to the back end of your lot and coming in from the alley and having that wider front meeting zone or whatever on your front yard. It's a total shift of everybody goes and hides in their backyard. You would literally come out into your front yard and visit with your neighbor.
I think she was even talking about promoting.
Yeah,
front
and some
door.
of those pictures of the townhouses and stuff show that same concept,
Yeah.
that the sidewalk is removed from the street and you have more of a open, small-town feel out front.
More
Old
to encourage-
plantation places used to be like that. It was the front that was your show, not your back, so. And there is laneways everywhere, whereas in Calgary, they don't use laneways at all, because that's, when she's talking how you're supposed to be reducing your roads, because you can get denser development with narrower roads and no laneways, right? You can get more houses per acre. And that's supposedly the big plan, like when you look at the South Saskatchewan Regional, they have a whole bunch of rules, but somehow Calgary seems to be exempt from it all, because it says not to use up agricultural land. And there's how many thousands of acres a year get put under concrete and asphalt all around Calgary every year that used to have wheat fields. They just disappear. So the rules aren't for everybody, it doesn't seem. And no, this isn't really following the tightest rules, but it keeps us in a town feel, not a very city feel. You get over to Europe, it's super high density, right? Because they don't allow you to build on a field. You stay within your town limit and go up. So, yeah, we do have luxuries here, but that was the plan with the MDP when it was brought out, so it somewhat stays with that. And even, I believe, even the existing 9th Avenue, people are parking on 9th Avenue because it's not a thoroughfare, but otherwise they would be probably parking in their back. Right now, they all park out front.
Yeah, everybody angle parks up front.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's wide enough that that's why they do it.
Well, and there's no traffic.
Right.
I can pull a full U-turn in my truck without having to back up on that road.
Yep. But is that still continuing the lease, 4-lane, or has that been resolved? That is going narrower? Okay.
I mean, I think too, as you said, parking currently in Redcliff, parking on both sides of the street, it's tight for 2 cars to pass, but again, it's hard to, again, we're trying to strike a balance with this plan because that's kind of a traffic calming measure in itself, and again, if we're trying to promote active transportation and kids walking to school and kids walking to parks and stuff too, do we want high-speed roads through the neighborhood or something a little calmer and slower to encourage kind of the pedestrian activity and safety of the plan, so.
James had just put up 30-kilometer-hour zone.
I was just gonna say, I know some of us don't like 30-kilometer-an-hour zones.
We have lots of those in Calgary everywhere, and lots of speeding tickets get issued in those zones, so it's a good moneymaker, I guess, but.
So is the only reason why the school got brought out to 9th for ease of service?
I believe so, and I think just, in terms of kind of build out of the area and development phasing, that it's kind of closer to the existing town. I believe, were there any other
Just for
reasons?
a quicker timeline?
Well, I'm just looking at that, becomes an instant 30-kilometer zone on a, what is supposed to be the main road out of town. Whereas as soon as you turn the corner, then it could, that other road, whatever name it has on it.
Road A.
Road A.
Road A, yeah, that can be fine, cause that is all the way along the front of the school, but that little jigsaw puzzle piece there, literally, may or
But
may
can't
not.
that be avoided, like if you put up a chain link fence or something?
Well, yes and no. Yeah. It's a funny thing,
Yeah.
just to get servicing. I'm sure that's what it's for.
To bring sewer and water in.
Their 3-year plan.
Right,
So that allows us to accommodate that plan as easily and
right.
as cost effectively as possible. Plus, it also allows, more room for them for soccer pitches, like any kind of fields, that whole area can be utilized by the school.
Mhm.
I do see what you're saying though, because actually someone was just talking to me about that again last weekend, is developing 9th Avenue as a main thorough way to reduce on the Broadway Mitchell Street issue as they
Well,
define it.
that's what it will become when it's built out. People won't
Yeah.
use Mitchell.
Yeah,
Or very rarely, unless they're actually crossing over to the north side of Redcliff.
Yeah.
They're not going to use Mitchell.
Or either that one small area.
so throwing that 30-kilometer-an-hour zone would really drive councilors nuts.
It'll drive somebody nuts.
It's a road I would use every day.
And at least if that school was a priority, we could easily put, I believe that's another 12-inch main going up that road, right? Water line and all that, like, there would have to be service extensions to the site no matter what, so, like I say, I don't know, I'm not,
Run it up Road
I'm not
A.
the planner, I'm just saying like that. And it looks small there, but it probably is a pretty large chunk of land. But they can easily, as far as soccer pitches and anything like that, they could easily go out over top the existing brick plant, the brick hole that's filled in. Yeah. That's why the school was always planned to be adjacent to that property, is so recreational grounds for the school could be out over top the
Of unusable
the
land.
sterilized IXL land. Anyway,
That would likely be for parking and all kinds of stuff as well.
no idea. That's a big site, but there wouldn't be a school that big in there, that's for sure.
Not for Redcliff.
Anyway. More questions? Any concerns? Well, White Fox was here that day, so, right? They're one of the 7. And that is their land, so I can see why they have concerns there.
What about that multi-use trail along Mitchell?
Well, if the plan to go down Sissons is a multi-use trail, that's only a block away, so
Okay.
it still gets you, like if people are worried to get to Red Hat, that was always a concern, there was Red Hat workers trying to get there, that still gets them to the Red Hat site,
Okay.
just the other corner. So, either one of those, like, if that's a trail, then that's a good enough trail. Still gets you where you gotta go.
The only issue might be crossing Broadway.
You gotta cross Broadway no matter what?
Right, but at Mitchell, there's a intersection at Sissons there.
There could be if we decide to put
That's
one.
just white paint on the
Throw out
road
Crosswalk and stuff.
Yep. All it takes is a bucket of paint.
and a blinky sign and a button.
Traffic circle.
There's not gonna be much traffic on Broadway if this ever comes to fruition.
Fruition. Yep.
Fruitation.
Good, you can have fruitation.
Larry, are you hungry?
Fruitation's what Jim's against.
That's flirtation.
People turning fruit.
Oh, that. He is worried. Okay? Any other questions of Brittany? Okay.
Thank you
So
much.
this is here for second reading later tonight. And then there's gonna be some more amendments coming forward and back for third reading and other.
Yeah, so based on your guys' discussions tonight, then we'll make those amendments and then do the third reading. The next meeting.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
I'll look for information.
Chris?
Oh, right.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, then.
I rescind that.
I'm not accepting.
Yeah, don't blame me.
Okay, I'll declare the public hearing to be closed then.
Thanks so much for coming.
So, moving on to minutes. Council minutes meeting held June 13th, 2022. Larry? Any questions, concerns, errors? Seeing none, all in favor of adoption? Opposed? That is carried. Municipal Planning Commission held June 15th.
For information.
Kathy, any questions or concerns? Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the Regional Cypress Waste Management Authority meeting held June 15th. Larry? Moves for information. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the Town of Redcliff Library Board meeting held April 19th, 2022.
I'll move that.
Jim, any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the Library Board meeting held May 17th, 2022, for information. Oh, Kathy got her hand up there. Any questions or concerns about that meeting? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. All right. Now we can move on to bylaws. She ran out before we even got to give it second reading.
Okay, I'll put it on the table for second reading.
Kathy? We didn't amend anything, technically? No.
No.
So, any questions or concerns that you thought up in the last minute? All in favor of second reading? Opposed? That is carried. All right, moving on to the 2022 Alberta Municipalities Convention meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Any ideas that he just can't pass us up on? 1:55. guys have had a whole month to come up with something. I can't think of a good word because it's wrong every time I think of a word.
Flirtation?
No, it's worse than that. Something cows have.
Utter?
Titillating.
Well, last we talked about this, did we find out if?
No, that's why we said let's think about it for
Yeah.
another
Well,
2 weeks.
no, if the senior housing thing was the appropriate thing to talk to him about?
No, he's not that guy.
He's not that guy.
He's not the funding man anymore.
Can
Well, if we
talk to
really don't have
somebody
anything to
else?
talk to him about,
Can
we
talk-
won't.
Can we talk to somebody else?
This is the only one we have at this time.
Oh,
There probably is other ministers there, but I guess he does this because he is municipal affairs minister, so out of
Oh,
out
okay.
of courtesy, he asks us.
Well, he's so fully booked up that, so they try and schedule him, whereas some of them you can just walk up.
oh, okay.
What about the greenhouse property tax thing that,
Well, that's a change to the MGA. I don't know how much they want to revisit that, because you have to realize May of 2023 is election, so they don't want to rock any boats. And apparently, agriculture has big votes. So I would say he wouldn't hear that one.
We've pretty much solved that
But
one
we,
anyways.
we are getting around that anyway,
Yeah.
yes. They did remove the differences, so we still are collecting a share from them.
How does that work again? We're allowed. I forgot my question.
Yes.
you lost your train of thought.
Not
Didn't
really.
come to
Like any
fruition.
good train.
Didn't come to fruition.
It'll come around.
Chris buying donuts at the next
I'm
one?
not gonna let that down for a while, you know that, right?
Okay,
And everybody's gonna be asking for money, so why bother
Yeah.
asking the question other people are gonna ask?
I can't think of something that sets us out from somebody else, because
No,
they're not gonna ask the same
can't either.
questions.
Yeah.
I struggled with that one.
okay.
Unless there was an obvious thing that.
Wait,
Well,
seems
if
really
it's
happy
obvious,
not to
we
talk
should have
about
had
it.
it already.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I.
If you think of something, just catch him at the Scotch bar.
Yeah, Rick, how's it
He'll
going?
be there.
Oh, yeah, he'll definitely be at the Brownlee Fry It. Wines of the world and scotch tasting.
Okay,
I move that we not request a meeting with the Honorable Rick McIver.
I don't think we have to do that.
You don't
Just
have to?
restrict
That's a
Except for
negative motion.
information.
Yeah, I think we can just not do anything and
Not
it'll
do
just
anything.
not happen.
That's exactly right.
Larry, you like your negative motions.
What I would suggest we see.
Everything's coming
Receive
to
for information.
fruition.
Okay, Larry did that instead.
Okay.
Larry moved it
Chris
for
has done that.
information.
You okay with that, Larry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions or concerns?
What's
All in
flotation
favor?
mean?
Opposed? Carried.
We're all in favor of Larry?
Okay. Fire service agreement.
I'll move that we authorize mayor and municipal manager to sign the agreement.
Yeah.
Your concerns with that, your worship?
No.
I read it, I couldn't come up with anything.
Well, it's just I like the old pricing structure better. Anyway, such is life.
Yeah.
Don't call them. Okay, any questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And the new senior apartment building letter of support and land availability for consideration.
I will move that for, what was it, option one?
Tell them we got some land and we'll sell it to them at a decent price, yes.
Well, they want it given, if I remember correctly. But-
I don't know, well, like, they were talking, they had land on site right now, right? But this would just be an alternative.
I'm fine giving it to them myself, I mean, it's just an extra service. that
Taxes
we're-
are forever.
Yeah,
Can we tax them?
they're nonprofit, maybe not.
I don't think so.
I
Either way.
would bet money they're getting a tax bill
They're
from the
getting
city.
tax bill from the city.
Even being a
Guaranteed.
nonprofit?
Not the cities.
Bottom line is we could really use his facility in Redcliff.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't care about the taxes on it, this would be great for it.
Yeah, I don't
But,
care about taxes
I
either.
got a property on North Railway that I don't pay taxes on because it's not for profit.
How can you be not-for-profit?
Well, I'm not, but the people I rent it to are,
Oh,
yeah. And then their rent, their rent is triple net, so they pay the taxes, but because they're not for profit, there's no taxes. So, I bet you these guys don't pay taxes.
Yeah.
But the one wing, I bet you they do pay tax on that.
The provincial wing, they probably don't pay tax on that one,
Now,
Toyota.
maybe now, yeah.
Yeah,
Grant
provincial
money.
governments.
Because that's AHS.
Grant in
HS.
lieu, maybe?
Hmm?
Grant in lieu of taxes?
Well, they quit that, right? They quit doing that.
Through the chair.
Go ahead.
I wonder what level of care that this new 50 units is gonna be. Is it gonna be level 3 or 4, or like?
No,
Whatever the market
they
dictates.
were, what they were doing is, they were, if they got the money to build a new one, they would literally be tearing down some of the old, the original building. Just because supposedly maintenance is to the point where, it's
Cost prohibitive.
getting prohibitive to keep it.
And how old is it again?
Well, it's only 62 years old.
Right.
It's just barely broken.
I know.
Yeah, it's not that old.
they'd probably look, like if it's gonna be in Redcliff, they would probably want something that's fairly independent, semi-dependent. Probably what, level 1 or 2? I don't know which way it goes. But if you require more care, then you're into the city.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably
this
right.
is my concern. I wouldn't wanna compete with a level 3 care, because I think that's prohibitive in Redcliffe.
Well,
If it
what
was
would
like a Redcliffe Memorial Manor, or a Luther Manor, or a Maranatha Manor, that would be more up our line.
Well, these guys are still gonna run and operate it, Cypress View. So they're not gonna compete with themselves anyways.
Yeah, and
Well-
it's only 50 units.
But the staff to care for different levels of care, there's a scale of magnitude in level 3s, like, you can't have the whole facility for 50 suites, like they do there.
Yeah.
You know, I'd hate to think that we're competing with a level 3. But if we were looking at maybe having a Luther Manor or a Redcliffe Manor, that would be a different story.
But that would be up to.
I don't know,
Yeah.
they're asking us,
Yeah, that would be up to, like, if we just say, okay, we support having a facility in Redcliffe, yes, we got some land, and the rest is up to them.
Up to them,
Yeah, this is
It's
a
up
exactly.
to
very
them.
preliminary step.
Yeah,
And that's option 2, actually, I think.
and you made option 1.
I just said one, I think.
Yeah, but it is option 2 that would actually show some availability of land in Redcliffe.
Oh, sorry, yes, absolutely, that's what I wanna do, yeah. I didn't see the difference between 1 and 2 on there. Yes, I absolutely.
1 is just supporting it, and 2 is supporting it and
Supporting it
saying
with-
that we do have some land.
Here's our
Yeah.
land, yep, sorry, yep, option 2 is what I want.
Okay.
I want it in Redcliffe.
yeah, I agree.
Or at least the option 2. Okay.
Yeah.
All right? Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried, so.
Dwight's gonna need somewhere to live in a few years.
Better get
Chris,
built.
number 2. Okay, go on. Offsite levies.
I'll make the motion option 1.
Okay, Chris, number 1.
Mhm.
Questions or concerns, James?
So, I need a little help understanding this one. So offsite levies are paid for by the developers to
Or
bring
the town.
Or the town, to bring the land up to whatever development state that it needs to be, correct?
No.
To cover infrastructure that's already here.
or going to be here.
Okay.
An offsite levy, I believe you base it over 25 years of future build.
Right.
And that way, everybody pays up front for that future build, or even, like, even past that's already been assessed onto the land. And what happened is when we first started doing the offsite levies, so I'd say that's gonna be 8 years ago,
2016.
well, only 6 years ago. Since then, there was only certain things you could have. You could have water, you could have your utilities, roadways, transport, that kind of stuff. Now they've allowed that you can put in fire halls, recreational facilities, those kind of things that before you weren't allowed to put in.
Right.
So what this is asking is, should they
Should we incorporate all those things?
incorporate these
Okay.
new and improved in?
Not that we have to put them in, just that we have the flexibility to
To
put
put
them
them in.
Yeah, we wouldn't have a project at this time, but should council say we are going to build a new fire hall, and we know it's going to cost us $2 million, we can assess the offsite levy.
in. And then that would be spread out through the whole town, right?
Yes, because
So
it's
now,
a benefit
what's
for
the
all.
difference between an offsite levy in that situation, as to what we do right now with, say, the fire hall or with the water treatment plant, where we have
Reserves.
a reserve?
Well, the town would still have to pay our portion of offsite levies, so our reserves would cover our portion.
Okay, so let's say there's a $2 million project coming up.
Right.
In 10 years.
In 10
And
years.
so we have offsite levies to cover $1 million of that?
No, you would put that $2 million over all the accessible area. So Eastside will only be, say, half of all of Redcliff. So only, if it was a $2 million project, $1 million would be assessed to Eastside, and the rest would be assessed to the existing town at large.
So Eastside would get $1 million assessment because it's going to be in Eastside?
No,
No.
because if you're building a fire hall,
Yeah.
it's for the whole town, not just for Eastside. Now, if you were building a fire hall just for Eastside, then the whole thing would be assessed to Eastside. But if you're doing something like that, or even if we were building a new arena, the arena would still do the whole town, so that would be spread out over the whole town, so the existing and the new. Because you can't charge the new people for a whole new facility if everybody is going to be using it.
And an offsite levy can only be once.
Once.
You get one kick at the cat.
Because once somebody develops that land and pays that levy,
They
you
left.
can't go back on them and say, oh, we made a mistake, it's more. No, they've paid and too bad, so sad. So it is important that you have your future costs put on your offsite levies, because every time somebody does a development, if it's not on there, you've missed it. You can't put it on later.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes it more clear.
So does that make it clearer on what
Yep.
you were asking?
Yeah, no.
And I'm still good with option one.
Yeah, well, that's the right option.
Well, then let's vote.
Well, alrighty then. Any more questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
I wanted to oppose it just
Alright.
Takes a little longer to come
Okay.
to the
Just because you made it, you wanted to oppose it.
he said it was the right one, so.
Kinsmen, Sunday Family Swim Agreement for consideration.
Skating.
James? Oh, skating
Yeah,
first, sorry.
skating. I'll move that, the mayor and CAO sign the sponsorship agreement.
Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And now the swim agreement.
I'll move that one.
Jim?
Everybody sign it.
Okay, any questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, moving on to policies. We have policy 148 being the town vehicle and equipment use policy for consideration.
I'll move option one.
James? Any questions or concerns?
Yeah, I had one comment here. Note 27. It is strictly prohibited to smoke in a municipal vehicle / piece of equipment. Did you, because we live in a day and age of a lot more people like to suck in that fake vape smoke, did we want to make an amendment that,
Smoke or vape?
yeah, I guess I should have moved option 2 for that. Smoke or vape in a municipal vehicle?
What is the definition of smoking? Is there one on this bylaw? Because I know we do have in our smoking bylaw, it's, everything is listed. E-cigarettes and all those wonderful.
Well, as long as it's, yeah, incorporated,
you're-
but.
I don't know how, this is a policy, that is a bylaw, the
Yeah.
smoking bylaw, so.
I
But
I
isn't
think
there a
that
bylaw that you can't
clarification
smoke
is
in?
easy to put in here if you're amended.
Yeah.
Isn't it in our bylaw that you can't smoke in a vehicle?
Yeah, it is right now.
Well, that's a policy. This is just a
Oh.
policy. Anyway,
Yeah, so if we could change that to approve as amended. If you guys are all good with that?
yeah, I'm
We'll
okay
find
with
out
that.
when we vote.
Yeah.
Chris is gonna vote no just because.
30-kilometer hour on
So what are you proposing?
Just to change that it incorporates cannot smoke or vape in a,
In the
All
vehicle
the
Municipal vehicle.
smoking classifications.
yeah.
or drinking?
Drinking's allowed.
Well,
Well, I think that one's already a given. There
I
is
think-
a,
I think
there
there's
is
a
a
policy for
policy
that.
about that.
Jim, right here,
Oh, okay.
right above it.
Okay, any other questions? So for clarification, how many vehicles is that now leaving town?
None, other than the one on call.
But you got one on call out of 4 managers,
Yeah, we,
water treatment plant?
lives in town.
I don't think so. None that I know of.
Okay, then it would be that one. The Public Works on-call union person lives in town, for the most part.
Okay, and what about Bylaw? He takes his home every day right
It
now.
will stop as well,
Okay,
unless they're on call. So directors or managers, one of us is on call every week.
okay.
So that vehicle will go to whomever is on call. And then you'll have a Public Works personnel, union guy,
Okay.
and a plant operator.
Okay, so facetious question, do we got enough parking lot to park all those vehicles overnight now?
Yes, sir.
well, it says there were like 3 or 4 different spots where they can be parked.
Okay,
Just to play devil's advocate with the bylaw officer comment. So if we took away his vehicle going home every evening, does that mean that he would not be coming in for after-hours calls, or would that be?
He would still be paid his 4 hours for after-hour calls.
Oh, okay.
3 hours or whatever the evening is.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so everybody's clear now? Any other questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, now policy 149 being the workplace harassment and prevention policy. And policy 150, so they're both, do we want to do them independent?
Yes, sir, Shannon does have 3 suggested motions.
Oh, there's 3 policies there.
Yeah, because 149 and 150 are together on my agenda.
Correct, I prepared.
It's okay, we'll do 149 first.
Okay,
That's-
thank you.
It's easy. Larry?
I'll move option number 1. Be approved as presented.
Okay. Any questions or concerns?
I just had one, but I can't remember which policy it was in. There was mention made of, when if you have a situation you needed to report, you would do it as per procedure. Where is that procedure?
Procedures are authorized by the municipal manager, so they're written, I sign off on them.
Okay, that's not something that comes to council.
No. Policy is council saying what,
Mhm.
and procedure is the operational aspect of it.
Ah, okay.
So basically, it's written for the most part. OH&S says that we have to pay attention to even a verbal comment. So if Shannon comes in and says, I think Mike just hurt Jason's feelings, called him a sissy. So then I do have to pay attention to it. I don't have to act on it, but I do have to pay attention to it. So later, if a written complaint comes in, regarding an incident, I direct it back to the director. I have a written complaint, blah, blah, blah. No names are mentioned. We do try to we have to protect our complainants as well. It goes down to Jason, who sends it down to the manager, and it's investigated and disciplinary action happens. If it's a severe thing or it's an escalation, it goes to the director and then to the CAO.
Okay, because I was just curious what the steps involved were. Okay.
Policy, OH&S Code of Conduct says that in a serious, and the collective agreements say in a serious nature, the CAO, municipal manager, gets involved.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And policy 150, workplace violence prevention policy.
Option one, probably. Yep.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And then policy 151.
Move option one.
109.
Sorry.
I'll make the motion that we cancel policy 109.
You look confused, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Where's 109?
It's there,
It's there. It's
on the attachments.
It's in the old, it's an old.
It's the old one that had them combined.
Oh.
It's not on my, oh, man. Okay.
Where's policy 109?
Okay, so Kathy did that?
Mm-hmm.
I love agendas like that. All right, so we're just eliminating it. Any questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Now we're on policy.
Now we're on 151.
Yeah.
Vehicles in public cemeteries.
I'll move that it's accepted as presented.
James? Any questions or concerns?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's a speed limit there of 15 kilometers an hour to be driving around in the cemetery.
Yeah.
You lower that to 10? Because that's just a little U-turn and you're back out.
It will be one way, no U-turn, one way.
No. It's one way, yes, but it's just a little U in there. See what I mean? You're just going around the columbarium?
Okay, so basically this is top speed of an electric scooter.
I think the reason why it was put in at 15 is, I think that's what the city uses and some other
Yeah, it
places,
is.
just for
Yeah,
a
because
speed
you'd
thing.
hear, you could, that's a fairly tight turn, you'd hear screeching.
You can't screech
Jim, you
tires on
might-
Why don't we
gravel.
go try it
You might
after the
be
meeting?
confusing
Yep.
kilometers with miles an hour.
You won't be able to
15
because it
clicks
should be
is
locked
pretty
up.
slow.
Jason could
Yeah.
unlock the gate.
Okay,
15 clicks is pretty slow.
okay.
Hopefully
You
there's
run
no
that.
car accident there. I can see the headlines now. Hundreds of dead bodies.
Put it on.
Councillor Stanky warned against this.
All right,
300 found dead. Singular vehicle.
okay, are we done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Thank
All in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
Speedy Gonzalez over here.
All right, So correspondence from the town of High River, their coal policy,
Move for information.
right? Any questions or concerns?
I thought coal was going out of business.
No.
I think they're just a little, well, no, they were actually trying to bring it back.
Oh, I think it's still back. They haven't rescinded any of the
No.
licenses they granted. They're just not talking about it. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Oh, another utility letter.
And the county of St. Paul.
Move for information.
Oh, questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And now we move on to project updates.
Most important meetings and dates.
No, no,
Not yet.
no.
It's not important yet.
Skipping ahead, Jim.
We're getting there.
Does somebody wanna
I'll
move
move
your
for
seat?
information.
James, any questions or concerns on any of the projects?
Has there been a fire truck, agreement drawn up yet?
Shannon and I just need to finalize one thing, and then it will be out for tender next week. It is sitting in my in basket.
Oh, the River Road, has the county agreed to come out and fix that for us yet?
I don't have that information from the manager. We've contracted them to do it, and now it's at their time.
Do we know when, the wet well wizard's gonna get installed?
It's way behind schedule. It's in there.
I know. It says that it's supposed to be July first, but I don't think it's gonna happen July first.
No, cause if you look at the green, it's way back.
Yes. Page 5, I
Do you have neighbors that are worried already?
think. Yeah.
Page 7? We haven't hit the hot weather yet.
Well,
Next week.
they're just concerned about life.
One of them might be watching right now, Chris. There's one person watching.
Hi, Chris. It's always Chris Howell.
See, it's behind.
Yeah, no, I see that. But do we have any,
I'm just looking
oh, sorry, didn't
for
mean to
the,
interrupt.
no, I have the Jessamine lift station. No, I do know that the gravel has been ordered for the, cement pad. Is what Jason, or what Jeff's notes say.
I noticed there was a cement pad poured,
So then we're ready.
and for forms, they used old street signs.
And do you have a problem with that?
They're recycling.
Oh,
I guess so.
reusing.
I
You know how
guess so.
expensive
Very
wood is
frugal.
nowadays?
I guess so. It was really weird.
Jason has made a note of that, sir.
Yeah, like it says First Street or whatever.
Oh, as long as it doesn't say welcome to Highwood or something.
Oh, they're Redcliff old street signs. But yeah, I was walking a dog and looked like they worked just fine, but,
The due date on the project is October 30th.
oh, it got bumped back that much.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
moved a
that's
whole bunch.
the due, yeah.
Gotcha. Is that realistic then, or? do you-
It will be done.
Okay. So I can go trick or treating at it.
You bet. I'll be standing there with your Aero chocolate bar.
I like it.
All right, go ahead.
I haven't driven by because I haven't been here, but how are we looking on the pool?
Oh, boy.
Replacement.
Don't go there.
Oh, Matt.
I'm just wondering if
He's turning
Was there an
red. Why is he
extension that
turning
had
red?
to be made because, like,
Yes, sir.
okay.
We are just waiting for the final sign-offs and inspections. Is that correct, Jason?
Did it leak in all that rain we've had the last couple weeks?
In one of them, there was a leak, and, which was great, because then we got to find it, and it got to be fixed, and then it rained again, and it didn't leak. So for us, we're calling it a blessing that we had rain. But we're very happy this project is almost over.
Okay.
Did we award the wrong company the tender?
I'm sorry, sir,
Where
I
have you
can't
been up?
discuss that.
Yeah.
Blink once,
Okay, any other questions on any of the projects? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. And now, council important meetings and events. Jim? Anything we forgot? Okay.
Sorry, I guess, are we going to be having any GPC meetings through the summer, or no?
We had not intended on that. Council cuts their schedule down to one meeting. I do know we do have to have one in August regarding one of the projects and some other information we hope to have prepared for you by then. So probably in August you'll have one, but not in July.
And that'll be the usual third Thursday?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that is land use bylaw, is that correct? That the consultant would like to talk to council.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Do we need a recess?
2 minutes.
All right, 5.